Welcome. Good afternoon. We would love to get a sense of who is in the room today as you are joining. If you can share your name, your state or tribe, and title in the chat, would be great. Hey, first one, amazing. Hey, Melissa, Katie. Awesome. As people are doing that, a couple quick logistics before we dive in. You probably heard the notification when you joined that this is being recorded. We are recording the first part of today's session where I'm doing some kind of like upfront background work. And the recording of that along with an add-on recording recapping the session and key takeaways, as well as a companion resource will be posted on the STAR website after the session in the coming weeks. Stay tuned. And there'll also be a follow-up email to direct you to those once they're available. So here's how the next hour is going to go. Again, we'll spend the first part grounding ourselves in why we're here, program integrity focus right now, what strong outcomes and accountability focused provider contracts can look like. And then I'll prompt our team to stop the recording and pass it off to our state learning partner to share their experience. And then we'll open it up to peer exchange that I'm looking forward to. So a note on format, this is meant to feel like a practitioner conversation, not like just a static webinar. So there's a chat open throughout. Please use it to react, ask questions, flag things that you want to come back to during the discussion. It is open for you. Okay. So thanks to everyone who's sounded off in the chat. We have a great group from all over the place in here. Very cool. Do you want to go? Thank you. You're ahead of me, Em. So thanks all for introducing yourselves. I'll kick off intros on our end. So I'm Sam Vance from Mathematica and the State and Tribal Technical Assistance and Resources, or STAR project team, which supports OFA's TANF initiatives. So I lead our program integrity work, helping agencies track and understand their non-assistance spending so that you can hopefully have the support to make better, stronger decisions for the families that you serve. And we want to thank our partners at OFA for making time to join us today and welcome all of you. Janelle, I will hand it over to you.
Thanks, Sam. Hello, everyone. I'm Janelle Jones from the Office of Family Assistance. I'm part of the TANF Technical Assistance and Special Initiatives TASC team, which oversees the STAR project. I'm glad to see you all joining us today. As many of you know, recent GAO findings have highlighted the challenges agencies face when collecting and using data on TANF non-assistance services. Those findings also reinforce something we hear often from the field. Peer learning is one of the most valuable and requested forms of support. This learning series is a direct response to that need. It provides an opportunity to hear from agencies that are doing meaningful work in this area, share promising practices, and learn from one another in a practical, low-barrier setting. Program integrity remains a priority for OFA, and we are committed to supporting agencies as they strengthen their policies, processes, and practices. We are grateful that you've taken the time today to join us, and we hope you find this discussion valuable. With that, I'll turn it back over to Sam, and we can dig in.
Amazing. Thank you, Janelle.
You're
Right. So like I said, just spend a few minutes here talking about why program integrity, why now, and why this series is structured the way that it is. So TANF program integrity has been under scrutiny for some time. You guys might feel that. The Government Accountability Office, or GAO, they've issued multiple reports, right? Like flagging gaps in how states and tribes are able to oversee TANF spending, particularly in non-assistance services, contractor oversight, and the data infrastructure really needed to track what's working. The most recent of those identifies contractor and subcontractor oversight specifically as a core program integrity, issue or priority. So that's the report framing today's session, and we can drop the link in the chat to that report. GAO 25107-290 if you're keeping track. So we know that the financial stakes are significant. States and tribes are responsible for stewarding the 16 and change billion annual federal TANF block grant plus state maintenance of efforts funds, so that the dollars spent help achieve TANF's purposes. And in March, as many of you also likely know, the administration established a task force dedicated specifically to this being kind of like drilling down and digging in to eliminate fraud within federal benefit programs. So what are we saying, right? The bar for accountability is rising, but the tools that have been available to states and tribes to, kind of tackle this maybe haven't been keeping pace. So that gap is part of, or this series is part of the effort to help close that gap. And we're not here to like add more guidance docs and layer more policy onto you, trying to help translate these federal priorities into things that states and tribal agency teams can actually do something with. Thank you. But the GAO reports from the last year, packed full of great stuff, but when it comes to like this topic, they all do touch on it and from slightly different angles. First problem or gap is that Health and Human Services, they can't fully see how non-assistance dollars are being spent once they flow to sub-grantees and contractors, because the reporting requirements just don't capture the degree of oversight that's needed to do that. Second, when HHS assessed TANF fraud risks back in 2024, there were a significant number of risks that surfaced related to contractors and grant subrecipients. Some of those risks included inflated invoices that didn't get caught, opaque accounting, providers that maybe weren't qualified for a specific program or grant. And then lastly, that kind of like foundationally, agencies lack the data sharing mechanisms and infrastructure to really assess whether contracted services are actually working for families. So what does all of this mean for you? What we know is that agencies that build accountability into their contracts through outcomes measures, enforceable reporting, and review cycles, they're just better positioned to close these gaps. Our state learning partner today, Wisconsin, they aren't doing this because these reports came out from GAO. This kind of started a little while back, and to help make their program better, right? That's the goal. But what the GAO findings do is confirm that they're on the right track. And probably a lot of folks here that have been interested in making this shift can also kind of use that to confirm, right, that we're moving in the right direction. Next slide, thank you. So getting specific about the problem that we're focusing on today, I'm not going to solve today, but right, most TANF non-assistance services, they're delivered through these contractors, subrecipients. And we hear again and again, from agencies that the data that you're getting back rarely tells them or you whether services are actually quote, like working, delivering on what they're intended to. And this happens because, right, contractors track what's required of them. And what's required is shaped by federal compliance reporting. Usually the number of contractors or the number of hours of participation in different activities, right? Like the outputs, the quantifiable things. And then what's required isn't the same really as what matters probably to a lot of people here, and what we're trying to get to. So output counts answer did it happen, but they don't answer did it work for families. So states aren't really getting the information they would need to know to even hold the contractor accountable. You're kind of left like we'd like to do this, but we don't even have the information to really start. So on the right, you can see how that breakdown actually happens in sequence, right? Like the agency sets contract terms, those contract terms drive what data gets collected. The provider then reports against what's required. And at the end of the chain, the agency can't really tell if services are working for families. And so that's the gap that we're really like looking at. How do we get in there? Next slide. Click. So how can agencies start to focus more on provider accountability, outcomes over outputs, and ultimately gain a better understanding of the return on their investment of federal and state dollars? A quick preview of common practices observed among accountability state TANF programs here, talk through kind of each one, and then Wisconsin will talk through their experience in redesigning their contracts around these. The first being outcome-based measures. You shift the question from did the service happen to did it work or is it working? Tracking things like job quality and earnings, not just whether a participant met their activity requirement or hours. Second, the enforceable reporting requirements. This means data collection is a condition of the contract, not a nice to have. Because if it's not in the contract language, it is optional. Third, the annual review cycles. We know annual reviews are required, so sure that they're happening. But these cycles, they create a built-in moment to look at what's working, where a contractor is struggling, and what the state can do differently, not just whether the contract terms were technically met. And then lastly, and I'll have caveats here, building on existing data when possible to keep the burden manageable. Administrative data, wage records, case files, they can answer a lot of questions that some states are, currently are often flying blind on, and they don't require new or additional data collection from participants or staff. That said, we know that there may be situations where the required data are not currently available, and existing forms, systems, or data sharing agreements may need to be revised. So a quick plug for the first session in this series. There are some resources in the companion product and the session recording and recap to help kind of like approach and navigate some of those scenarios, especially around reviewing and kind of revising your data sharing agreements, figuring out what data you need and what to ask for. And that's session 1 in this series on cross-agency data partnerships. Perfect. Oh, another huge admission. We know that participating in today's session is not going to be enough for you to immediately and completely improve or revamp your agency's oversight of TANF contractors and subrecipients. So for each of the practices that I just described related to strengthening provider contracts and oversight, I'm going to share a connection to federal policy and some practitioner-friendly resources that you can access to support you. These will also be available in the companion product that comes out following the session. But a quick orientation. So first, those outcome-based measures, The Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2023, right, that says the statutory basis for moving TANF towards outcomes measurement. It establishes the work outcomes reporting requirements, including the employment 2 quarters post-exit. Then the practitioner kind of focus tool. So trying to pair some maybe like dry, more like dense, but important material with like how to use it, what to do with it, where to start. Um, the Aspen Measuring Mobility Toolkit, it's a resource that helps programs decide what to measure and how. It's also grounded in the 2Gen framework that actually is also used in Wisconsin, so that will come back up. And we have links to some or all of these, and I can't see the chat, but I think that you're getting them. The second one, right, enforceable reporting requirements. So the OMB uniform guidance, that's the federal regulatory floor for subrecipient, that's subrecipient monitoring. That's the like, this is what must happen. And then the ACF resource that's linked, that's OFA's own recent guidance on strengthening that monitoring, specifically released last year and directly relevant to what this session is about. In the companion product, we'll also link a more kind of like practitioner facing Q&A, not version of this, but a resource that kind of helps translate some of that. But because it's so relevant, we really wanted to highlight it. Third, the annual review cycles. The Single Audit Act, which sets that annual review requirement for internal controls, again, compliance baseline. If you're wondering like where to go for the documentation, start there. But then this other resource developed by third sector actually comes out of the Laser TANF learning community from a couple years ago. It's a really good resource. It focuses specifically on using procurement and contracts to drive outcomes, very applicable to our session today. And then lastly, the GAO report here that really makes the case for administrative data integration, including on spending visibility and cross-program data sharing. And then the kind of practitioner-focused piece, a where to start translation tool, the Urban Institute's resource on TANF performance measures. It's an accessible and research grounded and could be really useful for any agencies that are thinking through or at the stage where you're thinking through like what to measure and how have other agencies approached it, kind of trying to like wrap your arms around it. It's a good place to start. Perfect. So before I pass off to our partners, take a quick step back. We've talked about why program integrity matters for TANF and why it especially matters right now. I've shared how agencies that approach contracting with providers and subrecipients with an accountability focus, how they kind of approach that with those 4 practices. But shifting to a new accountability approach really requires a mindset shift in addition to the operational shifts. Moving from again, like what's easy to count to what matters for families, how is this working, means likely asking different questions in your data. Like, are people staying in their jobs? Are they earning a living wage? Are they gaining like more opportunities for economic mobility? How stable are they? Moving from reporting as paperwork to reporting as accountability means that the contract language really has to spell out what gets reported, when and what happens if reporting doesn't meet those expectations. So some of those hairy conversations, which is why it's really great to use those annual review cycles, maybe even more frequently, especially if you're shifting into a new approach or like a new outcomes focused approach, those reviews might be more frequent as everyone's like getting into the groove. But these mean setting aside time to actually look at performance data with contractors and problem solve together, and adjust, not just renew or re-up on whatever is existing right now. And then again, the big caveat asterisk, but when you can, building on what you already have, looking at the data your agency or partners already collect, like UI wage records, again, for example, before creating new tracking burden. So those are the building blocks. For any of our on-demand viewers, you can visit the Program Integrity Office Hours webpage on the STAR PRTA website to view this recording, which will include a recorded recap of the session and key takeaways, along with the companion product that I mentioned, which also highlights our state in focus case study. So we will pause the recording there. Thank you. To support open discussion among state peers who attended the live session, the state presentation and peer discussion portions of the session are not recorded. However, key themes and takeaways from each session are summarized and shared. These recaps are posted following the recorded introduction to support individuals who were unable to attend the live session or who would like to revisit the information. This recording provides a brief summary of the case study presented during the session, along with key points raised during the peer discussion. Staff from the Wisconsin Department of Children and Families shared how they structured provider contracts, beginning with a compliance challenge and progressing toward a system designed to support TANF program administration and improve participant outcomes. Wisconsin's TANF program, Wisconsin Works, or W2, operates across 10 service delivery regions and 72 counties, with 8 contracted service providers, including nonprofit and for-profit organizations. This structure has created a wide range of TANF participant experiences, depending on geography and provider context. The state's earlier focus on work participation rate compliance, particularly after periods of elevated WPR penalty risk in 2011, led to a system that prioritized data reporting requirements. While Wisconsin is now WPR compliant, Wisconsin DCF leadership started to reflect on how the emphasis on meeting the WPR unintentionally signaled to partners and participants that compliance metrics outweighed service experience and outcomes. As major contracts approached expiration, Wisconsin initiated a redesign effort in 2023. The redesign included a third-party assessment that featured structured listening sessions with program stakeholders, and participants, along with the participant experience mapping exercise that documented a TANF participant's journey from program entry to exit. The goal of the assessment was to identify where barriers were created within the system and to prioritize changes that were both feasible and impactful. A central theme from Wisconsin's resulting redesign is the shift from a compliance-driven model to a participant-centered and performance-informed system. The participant experience mapping exercise surfaced friction points across the service pathway, including barriers that were unintentionally built into program design. This work helped clarify where Wisconsin DCF could make operational changes without requiring additional administrative burden. The redesign was guided by a whole family framework adapted from the Aspen Institute model. Wisconsin used this framework to establish a shared understanding of what whole family service delivery means across providers and agencies, while maintaining flexibility to meet the needs of individual families. The state also reconsidered how they measured success. Rather than adding new reporting requirements, Wisconsin focused on making better use of existing administrative data. This shift included placing greater emphasis on outcomes such as employment retention, earnings growth, and job quality. In practice, this means that instead of relying primarily on short-term job placements as indicators of success, provider performance is redefined around participant earnings. So a brief, lower-paying placement counts differently than a stable, better-paying one. Additional performance areas include economic stability, education and post-secondary engagement, social capital development, customer satisfaction, and participation in supportive services that promote health and well-being. Some areas, such as social capital, required creative approaches to measurement, while customer feedback remained an important tool for understanding participant experiences. To support these changes, Wisconsin established a dual accountability framework. One component focuses on compliance management through clear expectations, technical assistance, and the W-2 agency performance assessment review process. The second focuses on performance management through biannual family stat meetings, where state leadership and providers review performance data, discuss trends, and identify opportunities for improvement together. Across both areas, Wisconsin emphasized accountability paired with partnership, including dedicated provider support and ongoing technical assistance. Peer discussion among live session participants focused on the opportunities and challenges associated with modernizing long-standing contracts and accountability systems. Attendees noted that changing established expectations can be difficult, particularly when providers have operated under the same framework for many years. At the same time, several attendees emphasized that clearly defined expectations, meaningful performance measures, and transparent accountability structures can strengthen provider engagement and improve outcomes. A recurring theme throughout the discussion was the importance of balancing compliance requirements with measures that reflect service quality and participant outcomes. Participants expressed interest in Wisconsin's approach to using existing data more strategically rather than creating additional reporting burdens. Wisconsin is currently implementing its redesigned service model, with updated procurement processes completed in 2024 and 2025, and full implementation scheduled for the 1st of January 2027. The new model integrates whole family service delivery principles with performance measures designed to improve visibility into outcomes while minimizing administrative burden. Implementation will continue to include ongoing collaboration with providers through structured feedback mechanisms and regular review of performance expectations. The model also incorporates performance incentives, including the possibility that providers who consistently meet expectations may not be required to compete for future contracts. This approach reflects Wisconsin's broader goal of balancing accountability, continuous improvement, and stability within provider relationships. That concludes the recap for session 2. Thank you for joining us, whether you attended the live session or are viewing this recording. The TANF Program Integrity Office Hours series was developed to support state and tribal TANF agencies through peer learning, practical resources, and targeted technical assistance. Program integrity continues to receive significant attention across the federal landscape, including from the U.S. Government Accountability Office, Congress, and the Administration for Children and Families. For many agencies, strengthening program integrity while also supporting effective service delivery requires not only an understanding of requirements, but also access to practical tools, peer examples, and implementation support. Sessions 3 and 4 in this series will build on the topics introduced in this session. Session 3, scheduled for July 16th, will focus on strengthening TANF's spending oversight capacity, including approaches for monitoring and documenting non-assistance expenditures. In August, Session 4 will focus on data-informed program decision-making and how agencies can use data to support program and budget decisions. Each session responds to priority areas related to TANF program integrity identified by GAO and ACF. Each session also includes a recorded introduction, a state case study, and a companion product designed to support continued learning and implementation efforts. The State and Tribal Technical Assistance and Resources Team is available to support agencies through resource sharing, technical assistance, and implementation support for TANF program integrity efforts. To attend future sessions, request individualized technical assistance, or explore available resources, visit us at peerta.acf.hhs.gov or contact starinfo@blhtech.com. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you for Session 3 on July 16th.